Hey everybody. I have had that song going through my head all day. And it's because I read something about Arkansas that reminded me of beans and cornbread. So I promised myself that I would post the video or the song at the end of this in the comments, because it is, I think, against the law of nature to be unhappy when the song Beans and Cornbread is playing. I was waiting for a thing today, and all I kept on singing was beans and cornbread, and I'm just sitting there going do 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 beans and cornbread. So hey everybody, it is so nice to see everyone. Oh, this is so nice. I love seeing these cheery names that I begin to recognize. Hopefully you are recognizing the names of people in the comment section like I am recognizing the names of the peoples in the comment section. Nice to see you. Brian and Jeff and Jerry and Craig and Mary Ann, you're all here. This is so cool. This is so cool because we are still, this is like, I think, our 18th or 19th week of the social distancing. So while we have seen a few friends, we have not seen a lot of people, nor have we gone a lot of places. So it's so nice. I see Susan, thank you for chiming in, because you gave me some great suggestions for Arkansas today. And I say it exaggeratedly and a little bit trepidatiously because I read that there's some law on the books, and I don't know if it's for reals or not, but that you could get a fine if you mispronounce Arkansas, like Arkansas, which is how my brain pronounces it when I read it, but it's Arkansas. It's based on an Indian name. So welcome everybody. This is, I think, the 28th or maybe even the 29th episode that I've been doing of Retro Roadmap live from the Hacienda ever since we were quarantined here. So that was the beginning, actually kind of the middle of March. Started inside the house in the Hacienda because it was cold out. Well, now the weather's beautiful. It's actually a very nice day out today, finally. And this is almost like perfect timing. As soon as you all showed up and I started this, the sun came out. It's been a bit gloomy. It's been a bit gloomy today, so I was feeling a bit gloomy. But now you guys are here, I am here, and the sun is out, so this is awesome. So, yay. Jeff, I am so glad to hear the live streaming gigs, including this, are keeping you going, because this is keeping me going. I was saying to Retro Road husband, Cliff Hillis, that this isn't forcing me, but I love, this gives me the opportunity to show up every week and to do the things I love, which would be researching and finding cool things, and then almost as exciting as finding it is like sharing it with y'all, as it were. My two favorite things, discovering and sharing. And you give me the opportunity to do that. So thank you so much for that. Because I realized, and I'll get to Arkansas in a second, but I just wanna clue you into a little thing that went on with me this week. Actually, it was last week. So remember last week? Seems like, oh my God, it seems like a week ago. Last Thursday was Retro Road husband's birthday. So we had to cut the episode short. And at that time I was thinking, well, you know what, maybe I'll only do like a half hour for these shows. But then I felt bad at the end of Louisiana. I apologize, Louisiana. I kind of gave you the short shrift, but I promised to make it up when I'm back there and we'll do some fun stuff together. But I realized that I sincerely enjoy doing these videos. Last week I did some math and I was like, holy Moses, it is going to take me until right after Christmas to finish the 50 states in the US. And part of me was like, oh my gosh, I just kind of, not like I kind of want to get it done, but that seems so overwhelming. The overwhelm, I call it the overwhelm. It's like I can't deal with it, it's so much. But then what I do is I break it down into little chunks, and luckily the states are little chunks, you know? So what I'm doing, all these other states, is going to take me until actually New Year's Eve day, I think, or yeah, California, I've decided it's going to be the last one. And I realized this was the thing. It's like, if I hurried up and got this over with, then it would be done. And then what would I do on my Thursdays? I'd be like, I'm kind of bored. I miss my friends, miss my online, I miss you people. So I'm really excited to actually have this take over the whole rest of my year, because I would like nothing better than to, well, I mean, there are some things I would. I mean, I'd like nothing better is kind of a thing you say, but there are some things I'd like to do better. But this is a thing I really enjoy doing, is going and researching many of these states I've not been to a lot myself or at all, finding the cool things and then sharing them with you. For those of you who have never tuned in before, just so you know, we started in March, started up here in Maine, and every week I have hit a state. And you see where I started crossing them out? And then this one, check it out. I got the dates on there. I got the dates, people, because, because I just saw that, Jeff. That's hysterical. I am so excited to do, I'm looking forward, literally looking forward, like my road trip. My road trip is going to take me through all these states, my virtual road trip. And since I can't be on the road right now, this is going to be just as good, because I'm excited, and I will share this with you. I am excited about a certain like little region here in Arkansas, not Arkansas, but Arkansas, because I had no idea. And then the more I researched, the more I learned, and the more I got excited about it. And I was just like, oh, this is really cool. Now I too am looking forward to not only hitting the road, but now I know places that I want to go to in Arkansas. So before I get to the map of Arkansas, I know I'm all high tech, aren't I? I still haven't figured out, I think this is fine, because then I save all my little sheets and everything. But just so everybody knows, because I am not the best, Ron, hello. I'm not the best in, I've gotten so much better at where my states are and stuff. So anyhow, we are here, Arkansas, right here. That's the Mississippi River right there. We've got Louisiana, Oklahoma, Missouri. So that is where we are right there. And then pretend like, whoosh, look, whoosh. Then she zoomed into it. And this is what it looks like close up, kind of. So this is actually a printout of the map that I've created, a Google map of all the places that I want to go to in Arkansas, and many of them I am going to tell you about today. So I honestly was in Arkansas. It's funny because I want to say I was in Arkansas for like a hot minute. Back in 2011, we drove from Philadelphia down to Austin, Texas, so Retro Road Husband could play at South by Southwest. We drove we went down, I think, kind of this way, and then we went home another way, because why go up the same roads twice, right? So I thought that we had only been in Arkansas for a short amount of time, but what the deal was is that we only stopped in Arkansas because we were going from Arkansas. So we were going from here, so right at this little smidge right here, this is Texas. And then we were going all the way up here to Memphis, Tennessee. So we kind of literally just drove through. Right? So the one place I did stop, so I could kind of say, oh, I've been to Arkansas, is we stopped at Texarkana. So Texarkana is kind of a nutty town in the fact that, much like, I think it's Bristol. Susan, you reminded me of this. Bristol, Tennessee, and Bristol, Virginia, how the main road in town is split in half. Look at me, I'm being like an air hostess. It's split in town. One side is one state and one side is the other. And same thing in Texarkana. One side of the street is Texas. The other side of the street is Arkansas. Texarkana. So there's a few things you can do in that town. I took a few pictures of some cool vintage signs that I think are still there. So if you see them, I think it's called State Line Road that divides the two. Pardon me, I'm hunching over. State Line Road. But then there is actually a place, and I think they call it, where did I put this? They call it Photograph Island, because they literally have a place where you can stand, and there's a sign. There's a sign where you're in kind of, you can put one part of yourself in one state and one in the other. And I mean, I just think that kind of thing is great, because celebrate what you have. And what do you have? Oh, I don't know. We've got half of a state here and half of a state there. Let's do it. People stop, they get their pictures taken. So a lot of fun. So yes, so that's a cool thing for Texarkana. So if you want to get your picture taken, go downtown to Texarkana. Number of the, last time some of us checked, some of the buildings were a bit closed, but there is a place called the Flying Crow that is a restaurant that is in not a diner like we think about it, but a dining car like from a train. So that's a neat little place. And also Susan Nichols, who's in the comments here, so everybody say hey to Susan because she sent me some great tips for Arkansas and some other states too. She recommends a place called Hopkins Ice House. Now, the neat thing about this is while it opened only in 2007, the building itself used to be an old feed store ice house built in the early 1900s, and it had stayed open from 1936. It was a feed shop, stayed open until 1936, and then only closed in 2007, and that's when the restaurant came in. So that's Hopkins Ice House in Texarkana. So if you're kind of trucking along through, maybe you just need to get from one place to another, but you need to stop to get a picture, get something to eat, and then hit the road, which is what we're going to do. So Little Rock. So I think of Little Rock and I think of Grand Funk Railroad. I mean, doesn't everybody? You know, Sweet Sweet Connie and all that. I'm not going to sing that one, but Beans and Cornbread, people, at the end of the day, you're going to be humming that like me. It is such, you cannot be in a bad mood when that song plays. So, so there we are. So let me just, we're not necessarily, do not follow me. What's that? What's my bumper sticker? Like, don't follow me, I'm lost too. Yeah. So we're here in Texarkana. We're going to kind of drive past this fun place because I want to spend quite a bit of time talking about, this is Hot Springs. But I want to tell you about a few places here in Little Rock, because one of the first places on my map, as I said, I create a Google map for every single state. Anytime somebody gives me a recommendation or I hear about it, I get my little, you know, Betty sense, my little Spidey sense going on. I'm like, ooh, I want to remember that place. So I put a pin on my map. Well, the very first pin I put on my Arkansas map was Susan Nichols, and you told me to go to Galaxy Office Furniture. Galaxy Office Store. Let me see if I'm getting it right. Office Furniture, yeah. So I was like, why do I want to go to an office furniture store? Well, then I find out that it's not just an office furniture store, but it's a really cool vintage place too. And the pictures I saw, they have like, or at least they did when somebody took the pictures, stuff could have sold. But Galaxy Office Furniture in Little Rock, Arkansas has all sorts of like vintage clothing and vintage dinette sets and fun things like that. And I thought, okay, that my friend, that is why I have an office supply place on my retro roadmap map of Arkansas. And then doing a little bit more research in the Little Rock area. Yeah, Michael Lauren Hirsch, Hot Springs is wicked cool. I'm spending a lot. I haven't been there personally, but now I'm so jonesed. Which reminds me, I got a pen in my hand, so I'm pointing. If anybody has any of their own favorite places for Arkansas, put them in the comments, because I will learn about them. Other people will learn about them. People watching now will be like, man, that person knows what they're talking about. And also, people who are unable to tune in at this afternoon hour, when they watch it on Facebook after it's been archived on the videos channel page, the Retro Roadmap videos, they'll get to see your comments too. So if you have any place, feel free to just put them in there. I may not be able to acknowledge them all, but definitely do. But yeah, I definitely want to talk about Hot Springs. Couple of places though I want to mention in Little Rock, which I thought was really neat, was literally within walking distance. I probably should put this pen down because I keep on pointing. Literally within walking distance of Galaxy Office Furniture is a place called the Argentia Drug Company in North Little Rock. And it is an old-fashioned pharmacy. See, it was a PH, but it sounds like an F. That's why I was kind of tumbling over my words. Pharmacy, drugstore, opened in 1887, and it's still open today. Totally looks, a lot of old school charm still in there. It does not have a soda fountain. Usually I'm always telling you about the drugstores with the soda fountains. This place does not have a soda fountain, but it seems to have a lot of stuff that you would need to buy, like if you were on the road. So let's say you're on the road and you need some Kleenex, or you need some wipes, or you need, something like that you need to get in a little shop. Don't go to the chains. Go to a little cute place like Argentia Drug Company in North Little Rock, right? And then in Little Rock, and I'm going to read this because I cut and pasted it. there's a Carousel. Now I know, Craig, you said you're a Carousel fan. I too am a Carousel fan, and so is Judith. I think Judith, you mentioned she was too. So this is one called the Over the Jumps Carousel. This is at the Little Rock Zoo, and this is neat. I've never seen a vintage carousel like this before. It was actually built as a traveling carousel by Spillman Engineering. It appeared at the 1924 Arkansas State Fair, and this is the only one of these over the jumps carousels known to exist. And the reason they call it that is because instead of being like a merry-go-round that we're used to, where the horses are on the poles and they kind of go up and down when you're going around and stuff like that, these ones are mounted on a track, and then the track itself moves up and down, so it's kind of over the jumps. Get it? Over the jumps. The horses remain stationary while the track moves up and down, and it may be only one of 4, and now it's the only one of 1. So that is the Over the Jumps Carousel in Little Rock. So when you're in Little Rock, go see it. It's on the National Register of Historic Places, and again, that's the kind of place that I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. If I'm in Little Rock, I will put that on there. Now, a couple of people have mentioned already hot springs, and I want to spend a good amount of time talking about some of the neat things I found there. And when I do that, everybody, if you have some recommendations, let's put them in the comments then. But I also want to talk about another springs area of Arkansas. Eureka! Eureka! And I literally... Eureka Springs. That's why I'm saying that. It's not like I've lost it, nor have I discovered gold in them Bar Hills. But I literally this morning when I was doing my final research, I Googled, why do miners say Eureka? Having no idea. I'll admit, I am a college graduate, but I had no idea that it's this whole old, I say old-timey, like old Greek mythology thing where Eureka means I have it in Greek. So Eureka. So I want to talk about Eureka Springs. Now Eureka Springs is way up in this kind of corner here. So there's another few things I want to talk about while we're in this neck of the woods, while we're in this corner of the woods. But Eureka Springs, and let me see if this is the right one, because there was an interesting story about this. Okay, here's the crazy thing. I will admit, Eureka Springs, you say to me Eureka Springs, and unless I know where it is, I'm kind of like, okay, it's a place, right? So when I was doing, oh, this is funny. St. Louis, Missouri. So this is a hoot, okay? I don't think, did I do Missouri? I'm kind of losing it. I apologize. St. Louis. No. Okay, so this will be a predecessor. This is like a pre-story, because I have told this story when I've talked about Route 66, because I've been in Missouri. Missouri, for these videos that I'm doing for the Retro Roadmap Facebook Lives, Missouri is next week. So here's a little sneaky story that I'm going to tell you that has to do with not only Arkansas, but also Missouri. And now it totally makes sense because they're so close. So anyhow, here's what happened to me. Oh yes, I have wind chimes. It's a lovely day. And maybe the spirits are with me. Last year I did a Route 66 road trip, and I often went off and did my own thing because there were places I wanted to go to. And while we spent the evening, we stayed overnight in St. Louis, Missouri, and oh my gosh, there's so many cool places. I can't wait to tell you about it. But anyhow, one of the places I went to, just to check it out, we didn't stay there, is the Union Station, did I write it? Union Station Hotel in St. Louis. It is an old Union Station train station that is now a historic hotel. Really awesome place. Had this great, there's a video that I'll link to next week when we talk about it. But the reason I'm telling you this is because when I was there, as I was leaving, I was standing outside and I had just had this awesome experience on the inside, and I was just kind of absorbing it all. And this couple was next to me, and they were staying at the hotel. They had their cocktails with them, and I, said something. It said, isn't this a lovely evening? You see people, and especially now where we're all socially isolated, remembering to connect with the people that are near you. And I said, isn't this a lovely evening? Isn't this great? Oh my gosh. what just happened in there? Isn't this awesome? And I started chatting with these people, and they said, oh, are you staying here? I said, no, I'm actually with this group, and I love vintage and retro things. This is another clue, people, okay? Tell people what you like. Share some of yourself with other people, because here's the deal. I could have been like, no, I'm not staying here, or I could have not talked. I could have been like, nah. But instead I said, I'm here on a Route 66 tour, and I heard this place was wonderful, so I came over. I love old vintage places like this. And so this gentleman says to me, oh my goodness, you should meet our friend, whose name I've forgotten. Did I write it down? But she's the owner of the Crescent Hotel and Spa in Eureka Springs. And he said, oh my gosh, you should meet her. This friend of ours runs this historic hotel in Eureka Springs, and you would just love her because she has revived this old time place, and it was so great. And I just thought, how wonderful is this? Like, you share a little bit of yourself, pardon me, traffic. You share a little bit about yourself, and then you get something back. Because I got a tip. I got a tip about a place in Eureka Springs called the Crescent Hotel and Spa. It's been open since 1886, and see, I found it, and now I'm sharing it with you. I found it, and it's 1886 historic hotel, and if this is your thing, it is billed as America's most haunted hotel. Ooh. I don't know why. I don't like to read about those things, because then when I go there, I want to enjoy myself and not be scared. Or maybe I won't be scared, but maybe I'll be expecting to see a ghost, and then the ghost doesn't show up. So maybe if I don't expect to see a ghost, then a ghost will show up, and then we'll get along well. They can tell me what the afterlife is all about and all that. But the Crescent Hotel and Spa. And here's the other thing when I say and spa, is because both Eureka Springs and Hot Springs have springs in them, mineral water springs that you can actually go and enjoy the benefits, the health benefits and the cleanliness benefits of these places called the Springses. So thank you everybody for popping stuff into the comment section. Susan, I see you just put in a video there. I appreciate that. Can't watch it right now. But I hope everybody can after we're chatting. So that was the neat thing. So that place that I found out about in Missouri, and I'll tell you more about my little adventure there next week, is I found the Crescent Hotel and Spa. So then when I was doing my research for this episode, I thought, okay, you know what? Let me do some more research of this area. And lo and behold, I find out that the entire city of Eureka Springs is on the National Register of Historic Places. Not just a place, but the whole town is on the National Register. And it is one of, and this is all caps, so you know, or everything starts with a capital, so you know it's a big deal. It is one of America's distinctive destinations by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Eureka Springs. Originally called the Magic City and later Stair-Step Town because of its mountainous terrain and winding up and down paths of the streets and the commercial walkways. So I just thought that was so neat. So now, of course, Eureka Springs is on my map. So it means Eureka. And then here's the neat thing too, is that there are other hotels in that area. So these springs used to be places where back before we had like more health medicine and stuff like that, people would go there for the health benefits and probably the nice weather and some maybe vacationing. So there are a number of really interesting places that you can stay when you're in Eureka Springs. As I said, I just mentioned this kind of really neat Crescent Inn, I'm going to get it wrong, Crescent Hotel and Spa. But then there's also a place called the Palace Hotel and Bathhouse that seems really cool, kind of in that old historic hotel vibe, which I love. So much better than just a big, boring, beige block. But then there's this other neat one that I've discovered called the Wanderloo Lodge. Now, the Wanderloo Lodge actually started as the Joy Motel decades ago. So motel, smaller, not a hotel, not a motel, not a Holiday Inn. And it is actually now owned and run by the grandson of the people who started it as the Joy Motel. Now it's a little bit more catering towards the outdoorsy types because there are all sorts of things you can do. You can go on trails and you can like rent kayaks from them. I think they have like a rock wall, and that's when my Boston accent comes out, is when I say rock wall, Johnny. Or you can relax in their pool, and they've got the largest pool in town. So it's the and it's Wanderoo. I just realized I was calling it Wanderloo, like Wanderloo Sunset. If anybody knows that Kinks song, I'm kind of mangling it for humorous effect. I know somebody at least knows what I'm talking about. But anyhow, Eureka Springs. Isn't that a neat place to, Eureka, I discovered it. Maybe that's what I should do. What does it say? I found it. I have it. Maybe I should be saying Eureka every time I discover a cool vintage place. So that's up in the like northwest corner of Arkansas, right? And there are a couple of other things in that area that I figure this is what I would do if it was my vacation or were my vacation, is I would be like, well, you know what? We're so close. We're up here, right? So why don't we do a few things? So right here is a drive-in movie theater. So there are only 3 drive-in movie theaters in the entirety of Arkansas. I'm so afraid I'm going to say it wrong because it looks like Arkansas. I don't want to get fined by the Arkansonians. But yeah, there are only 3 drive-in movie theaters left in Arkansas. See, I'm now freaking myself out. One is the Kenda Drive-In in Marshall. One is the Stone Drive-In in Mountain View. And the other one is the 112 in Fayetteville. And I apologize, I forget which one's up here. There's one up here in this neck of the woods. So maybe what I would do, depending upon like the mileage and stuff, but I'd be like, hey, why don't we stay up here? But then maybe we'll go to the drive-in. Or see this little thing right here? That's like a little ice cream cone icon. And that's for Barnett's, I believe it is. Did I write? Yeah, Barnett's Dairyette. Started in the 1950s, and you can get ice cream and burgers and stuff. Not a fancy place by any stretch, but when you're on vacation or when you're just traveling, don't you want to spend your money where your heart is? Don't you want to spend your money and literally give your money to the little mom and pop shows that the little mom and pop places that just you love so much? Because if you don't, they go out of business. Then there's nothing left except for chains. And how boring is that going to be, right? Why bother traveling if every place looks the same, huh? Am I right, people? I know I'm right because we are all of kindred spirits, so we know this. We're like, testify, Maud Betty, you know what's going on. So that's Barnett's Dairyette. Dairyette. What a freaking cool word. I just love anything with an et. Luncheonette, ranchette, Kate Blanchett, I don't know. But that's in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. And then also in this neck of the woods, right up here, now this is where I would be putting on my mid-century modern cap, and I'd be talking to you about mid-century modern architecture and art, because that is also something that Maud Betty is passionate about. And that's why I occasionally call myself Mid-Maud Betty when I'm doing my mid-mod map. And there's an interesting museum up in that neck of the woods in Bentonville called the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. And the reason I send you there, I don't often recommend museums, because what I think is that you should absorb, you should enjoy the history that is still living before you go see it, before it's put in behind glass. If there's something out there that's alive, you go see that. But there are 2 really neat things in the mid-century modern category that I wanted to make sure you knew about if you're in that neck of the woods and that is something that speaks to you. So at the Crystal Bridges Museum in Bentonville, one is the Fly's Eye Dome. The Fly's Eye. So if you picture a fly and they help me, and they've got, the little, like the round eyes with all the little round things on them. Well, they have a place called the Fly's Eye Dome, and it was created by Buckminster Fuller. So we talked about him. I can't remember which one of these episodes we talked about him and the buckyball. If you think about it really quick, just always picture that big dome at Epcot Center, where the orchestra featuring former members of Yellow occasionally play. But there's a giant dome, and that's a Buckminster Fuller design. And he designed this thing they called the Fly's Eye Dome, and it was intended, he was trying to develop some economical efficient housing. So this is this crazy dome that has all these holes in it that you can actually go visit at this museum. And I just think that's neat because I just love that kind of literally thinking outside of the box. The box being the house. It was like, no, I don't want to live in a box. I want to live in a dome. Now, it didn't really work out, but at least he was thinking out of it. The other thing that was, yes, I noticed that there was that connection, Susan. You are right. And thank you for pointing that out. The other neat thing that was in the museum there that I thought was totally cool in the mid-century modern way, Frank Lloyd Wright. So here's the deal. Frank Lloyd Wright, he's got stuff all over the place, but there is a house of his. They call it the Bachman-Wilson House. And it wasn't originally from Arkansas. It was from New Jersey. It was built in the 50s in New Jersey, and then they were going to tear it down, or they sold it. They wanted the land. You know how those things go, right? Somebody doesn't value something that somebody once valued. I mean, it's the way of humanity, it seems. But anyhow, the neat thing is that somebody valued this Frank Lloyd Wright building so much that they literally disassembled it, shipped it to Arkansas, and then reassembled the Bachman-Wilson House in 2015 at the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Bentonville. So if you're up in that neck of the woods, if you're going to Eureka Springs, and you want to get a bit of culture, little mid-century modern culture, that is a place that I would recommend. Now here's the funny thing. Earlier, I saw it in the thing, people were mentioning my my wind chimes that I'm looking at right now, that I was just like, cue the wind chimes. You can kind of hear them. See, they're really faint, right? Because they are not, almost forgot to say this, they are not, crap, where did I put it? The world's largest, pardon me, I gotta find my things here. Crap, there was a thing, I just read it. There we go. The world's largest tuned musical wind chime. Tuned musical wind chime is in Eureka Springs. So mine, how it's so faint, so hard to hear. Yeah, that place. So when you're in Eureka Springs, go see the largest one. The largest tuned musical wind chime. So, got that. Couple of things. You know what? We're just going to hop right onto it. Since we're in the Springsy kind of moment, I'm going to jump right down to Hot Springs, because I want to make sure, because I found so many things that were so interesting there. So that's, as I said, we were up here. Now, Hot Springs, if we were in Texarkana, to get to Little Rock, it's kind of between the two, okay? So I agree that the Frank Lloyd Wright homes are totally distinctive, and I love them, and there are a lot of them on my mid-century modern map that I will, maybe if we're still in lockdown in 2021, I'll just start doing that one, you know? It's one way of getting the word out. I can do it many ways, and hopefully many pays. So Hot Springs, Arkansas. They also have a neat thing where you can go to like the spa and the baths. So there is an actual place in Hot Springs, Arkansas called Bathhouse Row, where there's all these old and new places where you can go and soak in the waters, in the mineral waters that come up from through the crust of the earth, which I think is so cool. I totally want to do this. So there's a place that somebody recommended called the Buckstaff Baths. And that is one of the ones in Hot Springs National Park where you can soak in the thermal mineral water. And Bathhouse Row, it's part of that. Bathhouse is from the 19th and 20th century, right? So how fun does that even just start to begin with? Like, I'm going on vacation, I'm going to soak in a tub. Sounds nice. But here, these are the ones where I was so excited to tell you guys about. So I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this, but Dame Fortune's Cottage Court. Anybody? I just found out about this place, and I am smitten like a kitten, because this is a totally adorable place. Started as a place called the Cottage Courts in around the 1950s or so, but I think it might have been even earlier than that. I'm not sure. But the neat thing is, then it became the Cottage Motel, and then in 2016 to 2017, somebody renovated it. Maybe Dame Fortune. I don't know. But somebody redid it. And it is now that wonderful combination of like old school architecture and old school, you know, roadside things, but done up in a new way. I would highly recommend Googling this place and looking at the pictures of what they've done to the interior of these adorable little rooms that you can stay in, because it looks adorable. Again, I'm saying adorable, 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 because it looks adorable. They have flamingos on things that probably match my glasses, or maybe my little flamingo pair over here. And it just looks like such a place that like you would be excited to stay there, as opposed to just like, oh yeah, here I am at a boring, thing. It's so much funner. It's so much more fun when the place that you're staying is also part of the thing that's filling up your heart when you're when you're traveling. So, yeah, so that is a place that I totally want to go to. Dame Fortune's Cottage Court. And then, as they would say, plus another guy, there's a place called the Best Court. The Best Court Motel and Cafe. Now, this was built in 1933 as a motor court, and it has also been updated in that kind of like new old place, lovingly restored, but with that old charm. And they also have an associated business called the Best Cafe. And I'm thinking, okay, well, so here's my thought, right? This is what happens when I'm like, all right, this place already has like 2 little cool old places that some people have recognized as being interesting, and they have taken their time and money to restore it. So my thought is, and that's kind of how we found where we lived here, pay attention to those clues, people, because when people do that, that may be an indicator that there are other cool things going on. That when you go to a place like Hot Springs, you may find some people who have, similar interests to you. As a quick aside, if I'm going to take a slight detour talking about that, that's literally the reason I am sitting today in this garage right here, is because we found a town in Pennsylvania that had an old-time movie theater that was still open. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. You never see these old-timey movie theaters open anymore. And then we found out that this old-timey movie theater not only was open and run by volunteers and people from the neighborhoods and the town, but that they also did really cool, interesting things. Like we went and saw a silent movie that they had a band play in front of. They did this thing called Blob Fest. They showed old movies. They showed independent movies. And we were like, wow, if the people in this town are digging what's going on at that theater enough to do that kind of stuff here, then like those are our kind of people. Like those are the things we love. So pay attention to those clues, like when you're researching vacation areas. Conversely, if you're researching vacation areas and all you see are things that are like so-and-so's hunting lodge or so-and-so's sporty place or so-and-so's like, oh, I don't know, thing that isn't something you're into, pay attention to that, because if you show up there, you're probably not going to have as good a time as if you took the time to find something that meant something to you. Now, I realize that was a little bit more just drive your lifing than retro road mapping, but Mod Betty is kind of entwining the two types of things right here all the time in her own life. So pay attention to the places that are important to you and the things that speak to your heart. I know you can't see me, but I'm always poking at my heart like here. So any of these places that I'm mentioning, some of them you'd be like, meh, I'm not really into carousels, but other times you're like, oh my gosh, I love that. Or like, for example, in Hot Springs, like this was another thing that got me all excited. I found out about this place called the Ohio Club. Now, the Ohio Club is Arkansas's oldest bar. It opened in 1905, and while it could just be, a regular bar or, whatever, it looks like they make some really nice cocktails. There's a bit of a gangster type history in town. I'm not sure what that's about, but when I go, I want to discover what that's all about. You can also get food there, but the Ohio Club. And how fun would that be to go check out when you're on vacation in Hot Springs? Another thing that was really neat too, this is how I pick out places when I'm going on vacation. So I'm kind of showing you the organic process of how I find places that I want to share with you, and also I want to check out myself, because frankly, you will appreciate this. I'm not going to share any place with you that I would not go myself. Like, why would I do that? It's like, I'm telling you the places I'm excited about, so you get excited about them too. And one of those places is McLard's Barbecue. So I was doing some research on the food, and I promise we will get to some of the more unusual foods and just some of the foods that are popular in Arkansas. But McClard's Barbecue, I was looking, Googling best barbecue, blah, 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 and then I see this place, and it looks like it's been around for a long time. It's got some really cool neon signs. It's in Hot Springs, and I'm thinking, okay, that's enough for me to go try that. So McClard's has been around for decades, 1928, a wicked lot of decades, like almost 100 years. How crazy is that? There's so many to choose from for barbecues, but to me, when I see the old-timey signs and things, that means it's been around for a long time, so there's probably good reason. Also that a place appreciates its history, so they're not like a fly-by-night type of place. So McClard's also just, to me, I also want to support the places that have the old-timey signs and decor because they have kept those things. They have not stuccoed them over. And so I want to go there and I want to like Instagram the sign and be like, hey, everybody, this is where I ate my food at the really cool place versus the really boring place. Now, I know, as some people have said, you cannot eat decor. But if there's like average food, like fine food here and fine food here, I'm totally going to the place that looks cooler. I'm sorry. It's just the way of the deal. And the food here doesn't even look, just fine. I saw this thing and it's called a spread. It was a tamale spread, but it's not like a, and I got this definition from Road Food because I saw this thing and it had like, almost like haystacks of shredded cheese on it. It's called, the spread is McClard's term for a pair of tamales topped with sauce, chopped smoked meat, beans, Fritos, raw onions, and shredded orange cheese. They kind of are a locally flavored Frito pie, but with the added zest of genuine pit barbecue. So that's the other thing. It's like they make something that you don't get anyplace else. So that to me would be the place. So those are, let me see if I missed any place. Anybody who has any recommendations for Hot Springs, feel free to put them in the comments while I just make sure I didn't forget any of those ones. But I will be honest, I was so excited about those cute little motels that in a place to like go hang out in the water and then go have a cocktail and have something to eat, that's pretty much like what I love to do, well, every day. But I don't do it every day, but my vacations, So those are the places in Hot Springs I wanted to mention. Now, I just mentioned also Road Food. So Road Food is a book and a website. Jane and Michael Stern, who have been documenting the American roadside since Maud Betty was in single digits. And so I look up to them so much, and they do such great things. And they write about food so wonderfully that I pretty much have like drool marks on all their books because it sounds so good. So when I was learning from them about the spread at McClard's, I also saw another thing that they said that Arkansas was famous for that I totally was like ready to jump in the car, because fried pies. Fried pies. Judith, I am glad you're here too. And I love pie. I actually like the crust sometimes more than the filling, depends. But then when they deep fry a piece of pie, it's almost like what Hostess pies were supposed to be, but not really. And there's this delicious looking fried pies at a place called Ms. Lena's. Ms. Lena's Pies in Devall's Bluff. Road Food highly recommends their fried pies. I put a pin on my map because I'm like, okay, if I'm in that neck of the woods, I will know where to get a delicious fried pie. Another thing, and this is where you can tell I've got like a wicked sweet tooth, is because I just went from talking about fried pies to there's a place called the Wagon Wheel Restaurant in Greenbrier. So the Wagon Wheel, I guess you could have a wagon wheel. Does anybody remember what a wagon wheel is? You take 2 slices of, a slab or slice of chunka. Anyhow, I digress into my 1970s upbringing. Anyhow, the Wagon Wheel Restaurant in Greenbrier has a thing, and maybe other places do too, called chocolate gravy for breakfast. So you get your biscuit and you get your gravy, but instead of being like a savory sausage gravy, it is chocolate. I would totally get that. I mean, that's something, that's like a little kid delight. Like, I'm going to take my biscuit and I'm going to dip it into chocolate and I'm going to eat it for breakfast. Oh my gosh, I've got to try that when I'm on the road. And I don't know about you, but we do not have chocolate gravy here in PA. So when I'm in Arkansas, I am totally gonna, now I know to look for it, and now I know that a good place to get it is at the Wagon Wheel in Greenbrier. And now you know too, because see, I discovered it and I shared it, and now we all know. It doesn't mean I don't know about it anymore. It now means that we both know it. So sharing means not just I give it to you and then I have nothing. It means I have it and you have it. Isn't that nice? Speaking of my growing up in the decade known as the 70s, this was kind of a hoot to me, so I figured I would just share about this. So one place that somebody had recommended to me looked kind of adorable. All purple and glass block and soda fountain-y, and there's a number of these kind of scattered about Arkansas. It's called the Purple Cow, and it's like an ice cream soda fountain type place. So I looked at it, and it definitely looked like kind of new place, trying to look old. I mean, there wasn't a lot of purple back in the day. And I thought, oh, well, that's kind of cute, but you know what? It's a little bit too new for Retro Roadmap. And then I realized that they opened in like 1989. That's like 30 years ago. Time flying, people. So the fact that, especially even now in the COVID, where little places are dropping off like flies, like 30 years is a major accomplishment for a business. So those are the types of places that are growing into some of these legacy old school businesses that we love. So I just figured I would remind myself and you that it's crazy how time is flying. Like when I started Retro Roadmap, I was like, oh, there's going to be nothing. Like the latest, the youngest of the places is going to be like mid-60s. And now I realize 1970 is going to be 50 years in a couple of years. Because my sister was born in 1971. She's going to turn 50. Ah, welcome to the club. So time flies. And so you should fly along with it. So if you're ever in Arkansas and you have a penchant for purple and you want to get something sweet, go to the Purple Cow. The other thing is they have this crazy purple ice cream that I think is just vanilla flavored, but you can get like a purple shake. So why not? I don't think we have purple shakes here in PA. I would do that when I was on vacation. Of course, I'm now probably popping Tums and Lactades and whatnots, but I'm still eating this food that I can't get at home. Sounds good, Jerry. Yes, I get hungry when I'm doing these things. We're going to have food sometime soon. So yes, so sometimes some of the places that I think are too new, I would still go to them anyway. I'm not a purist. I just try to stay away from the chains like all the time. And luckily now we still have a choice. So couple of other places that I want to mention food-wise, and then it will be time to depart. But here's a cute little place called Jones Barbecue. So Jones Barbecue is like a little hole in the wall. Like I'm looking around our garage here. Summer office. And I think it's smaller than our garage. But it has been given the James Beard American Classics Award. It is famous for their pulled pork sandwich. So this is Jones Barbecue Diner, not really a diner, of the architectural type in Marianna, Arkansas. And looks like a wonderful place. They serve it on like your old Wonder Bread, no fancy focaccias or, remoulades or, whatever. Just good old meat on a good old piece of Wonder Bread, and looks absolutely delicious. So that's Jones Barbecue in Marianna. And then here was kind of a funny thing that I just, again, food-wise, queso. So, queso, cheese dip with stuff in it, and you eat it with the chips, or you want to eat it with a spoon. Supposedly, and I say supposedly to kind of cover my butt, because you know how people get with their food things. They're like, oh no, we invented it. Oh no, we invented it. Or it's like, oh no, our chowder is better. Oh no, I like our chowder. Or like, I like our barbecue. Or, anything that people can be like, meh, 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 about. To me, just like them all. So supposedly, queso, cheese dip, they're saying was invented in 1935. They said that they're invented in 1935 in Little Rock, Arkansas, at a little Mexican place. Now, I know there's like food fights going on. I say, I don't know. when you're in Little Rock, why not use that as an excuse to get some queso and chips, you know? And also then see what the favorite places are to go. So I just thought that was hysterical because for some reason it didn't, I was forgetting that, like, Arkansas is right there near Texas, Tex-Mex, you know, it's all very regional. So, and that comes to, and I will promise, I'm gonna, if I had Retro Road Husband here, we could have coordinated it, but there's a song called Beans and Cornbread. Now, I read about beans and cornbread as being a thing, and actually somebody even used the term, like, it's a beans and cornbread kind of day. And I don't know if that means that it's a little bit cold and you want to eat something hearty. That's what it gets to me. So I don't know if beans and cornbread, baked beans, not string beans, are actually like an Arkansas thing. But there is this song that I love so much called Beans and Cornbread by Louis Jordan and the Timpani Five. I'm going to post it in the comments. I'm going to post a link to like a YouTube video or something so you can hear it easily. And it is the cheeriest, freaking funniest song. And it's all about beans and cornbread. They're all mad at each other and they're going to have a fight. They're going to be meeting in the corner tomorrow night. But then they decide they're going to get along. So it's a story of struggle and of adversity. And then at the end, it's about redemption. So anyhow, oh, that's so awesome. Oh, Retro Road Husband, you rock. See, we're always listening to Beans and Cornbread. It's true, because that's what Beans said to cornbread, and you heard it probably at the top of the hour, anyhow. So thank you so much, hon. He is the man. He is a keeper. So thank you everybody for tuning in to episode 28, 29. Pretty soon it's going to be 30. Thank you so much for tuning in, Arkansas. So now we've kind of crossed that one off. So now we did all this. We did all of the east of the Mississippi, and now we're working on the west of the Mississippi. Even getting to, I've even factored in Hawaii and Alaska. Don't worry, I got all the states. So already we're moving up. So next Thursday, 7/23, is going to be Missouri. And now here's a neat thing about Missouri. I'll give you a little, like, just a clue, because I'm all excited. This is almost like where some worlds of mine collide, because this is where I can share with some of you some of the stuff from Route 66. Because Route 66 goes through Missouri. Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City looks mighty pretty. You'll see Gallup, New Mexico, Arizona, San Bernardino. You know what I mean? So there's going to be some really neat stuff there. I had such a delightful time in St. Louis that I'm probably going to spend a lot of time talking about those places. I want to give a shout out today to Susan Nichols. If you're still in the comment section, thank you so much, because you have given me some great tips on places that I have followed up on and I've shared with people, and I've had some wonderful times. And on that note, I hope what I have shared with you has inspired you too, when it is safe, people. I know I'm going to sound like somebody's mom, but it's because I love you all. When it is safe to go out traveling, so you don't catch something and get really sick and die. Just wait until it is safe. But when you do, now you know some neat places to go to that you may not have heard of before, and you know to pay attention to how you're spending your time, how you're spending your money, and pay attention to the things that are kind of like lighting up your heart, because those are the places that you want to spend your time and your money at. You know, as I keep on saying, like, if we don't support these local mom and pops that make everything different, then pretty soon all we will have are big boring chains, and then we won't want to travel anywhere, and nobody else would ever want to travel here. So, yay. Thank you, everybody. I will see you next week. And until then, you know, just drive your life. You know, treat your life like a road trip. Drive towards the things you love, and then, you know what? It'll be good. All right? Thank you so much, y'all. I'll see you later.